welcome or welcome back. My name is Ari, and it's time for this week's 24-hour reading challenge. Hi, I am interrupting your regularly scheduled program to let you know that this series deals entirely with teenage suicide. So if suicide or suicidal ideations is a trigger for you, please don't watch this video. This week's reading challenge is the Program series by Suzanne Collins. This is the first weekend this month that I'm not entirely confident that I am going to get through these books this weekend. The shortest book in the series is 350-ish pages, and the longest is like 460-ish pages. So, not novellas, and there's 6 of them. But they're also young adult, so maybe they'll be really quick to get through? I don't know. We're gonna find out. I'll either get through all of them or I won't. Those are the only 2 options. So, what these are about. What this series is it's a series of duologies. It's young adult dystopian, so of course there's all couples. I'm sure some, if not all of these books are going to have some teenage love triangle in it, because that's just on brand for YA dystopian novels. Now, I'm a little bit concerned about the series. I have read the Program before, but I read it like when it came out. This was back in, I don't know. This was back in 2013, where things were a little bit more problematic. The peak of the young adult dystopian, maybe not everything in here is great, but the premise of these books are why this might be problematic. This is set in a dystopian future where there is an epidemic of teen suicides, and the government, in order to combat this epidemic, creates the Program, where when teenagers start becoming depressed or attempt suicide, or their parents think they might be attempting suicide, they get sent to this Program and then come back as brainless zombies. I am going to start this check-in with you, let you know how problematic or not it is. All of these books seem to have fairly high ratings, so maybe it's not problematic at all, and maybe it deals with depression in a good way. I don't know. I have very, very low expectations on this, and I expect this to be another House of Night vlog where you can, like, just watch me die inside more and more with each book. But hopefully it turns out better than expected and I end up really liking this series. So I am going to go ahead and read the Program, and I will come back with a summary of the book and what I thought about it. Hello, I am done with the Program. Also, it's a really pretty just book. This is like without the dust jacket on, right? Very cool. I like it. I like it. So, I have thoughts. This book is interesting. It brings up some very interesting points while managing to be creepy as fuck and stupid. All at the same time. I think all in all it evened out to like a 3-star read is what I'm gonna put it at, but I got a lot of ground to cover on what the fuck is going on. So this is a 3-part book. You start at the first part where you're introduced to some main characters. You've got Sloane and James, who are the couple. Sloane is the protagonist. She's the perspective we're reading from. And James is her boyfriend, right? Then you have Miller, who is their like best friend. You also have two like not present characters. One of them is Sloane's brother, whose name I didn't write down and I don't remember, but he has committed suicide previously. And the other character is Lacey, who is Miller's ex-girlfriend, and she, at the beginning of this book, has just returned from the program. So, back to her brother committing suicide, there is a pandemic, or an epidemic, not a pandemic, there's an epidemic going across the world where teenagers are just in mass committing suicide. 1 out of every 3 teenagers in the world dies to suicide. And so the program is a new program. It's like brand spanking new in this book. And it is a program that is designed to prevent teens from committing suicide. Now, one of the confusing bits and like the thoughtful bits of this is like you already know that this is an epidemic. Like the program is not causing these teens to commit suicide. And from the behavior of all of the teens that are recruited into the program, their ideologies are extreme depression and like suicidal thoughts and tendencies. Like all of these children like really actually need help, but there's also like a terrifying side to the program. When somebody is reported or recruited or whatever to the program, they are pulled out of like their homes or school or whatever, and like these guys in like white clothing, like a hospital orderly is what I picture in my head, just show up and they will like drag the person out of like a classroom in like the middle of the school day. Kicking, screaming, they'll tase them, they'll like restrain them, and I'm sure is like a hormonal teen, watching that happen to your friends is terrifying. On top of that, the program is a 6-week program, and when children return from it, they don't remember anything at all. Like that's how they're cured, is all of their memories of like traumatic events are erased. And the program's successful. It works. Once kids come back from the program, no one commits or tries to commit suicide again, even if they're basically completely different people, because their memories have been erased. So you've got like, on one hand, like this is actually helping, but on the other hand, like it's creating abnormal amounts of additional anxiety. But then back on the other hand, like the teen suicide rates were already insanely high to begin with, so is it worth that anxiety and the loss of their previous memories to prevent 1 in every 3 teens from killing themselves? So it's got this like, you question it all throughout. Like ultimately you know that the program's fucked and this is like, they should be doing something to prevent teen suicides and this is not it. But you kind of also understand like why such drastic measures were taken, or at least as an adult I do. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to think of as a teen. So the first part of the book is, again, like these characters and from their different perspective. Sloane and James are together, and their relationship, I think, is supposed to be like very romantic and like they're soulmates, and I think that's what I'm supposed to get out of this. But I'm, in my 30s, I'm not a teenager, and I can't, like a 16 and 17-year-old being soulmates, I don't buy it. And I'm cynical. I'm cynical as shit. So this really, it feels like a creepy codependency, and James is kind of like, sometimes he's a really great guy, and then sometimes he's like a raging asshole. And I don't think it was purposeful. I think it's just supposed to be like teenage emotions, but he comes across as like gaslighting her, like a very emotionally abusive relationship. But I think that's like me projecting on it, and I think it's just because he's obviously hormonal and emotional, and he has a hard time like deciding what he wants in life because of 17-year-old hormones. So and because all the kids are freaking depressed and suicidal, so his moods swing just everywhere. But it still doesn't feel like a healthy relationship. Like, the codependency is real, but even outside of the codependency, it still doesn't feel like a healthy relationship, even though I think I'm supposed to think this is like the most romantic thing in the world. Miller, their best friend, his girlfriend was Lacey, and Lacey was taken into the program because she tried to kill herself, as that happens. That's what the whole point of this book is. And she gets out of the program and she's completely changed and doesn't remember who Miller is. And Miller's having a very hard time dealing with the fact that Lacey doesn't remember him. And he just sinks like deeper and deeper into a depression. And because they're so terrified of the program and like the scenes of other kids being dragged out of school and knowing that their friends will come back with like completely different personalities, like they're watching him sink into like a depression and suicidal ideologies, but they're not doing anything about it other than like trying to comfort him. But like, comfort's not working in these situations. It's like a brain chemistry thing where just saying like I'm here for you is not gonna help. He needs like professional help, but they're afraid to seek the professional help because of how the professional help has been treated their friends in the past. And so Miller does end up committing suicide, which drives James into a depression and suicidal ideologies. Like, you see how this is a trend, and the thought is first like the program is doing this to these kids. Like, these kids are getting depressed and committing suicide because, or either committing or trying to commit suicide because of the program. But we're told that this pandemic this epidemic has been happening like long before the program existed. So it's like, our one teen committing suicide causing their friends to commit suicide. Like, if you jump off a bridge, or if your friends jump off a bridge, are you gonna jump off a bridge too? And that's kind of like, it's, you see like going back and forth with it. So James gets really depressed and has suicidal ideologies when Miller kills himself, and then I think Sloane tries to keep James from killing himself, and I guess for the most part succeeds. He does end up getting taken into the program, and Sloane kind of makes it through his stay in the program until he gets out. And when he gets out and she realizes that the love of her life doesn't remember her, then she develops the suicidal ideologies, and then she ends up in the program. And that gets us to part 2, where she's in the program, and you get to see like her experience. And it's that part of the book, or the program itself, is kind of like an insane asylum, or at least a stereotypical television insane asylums. Like, all of these kids are in like this lockdown building. They each have their own individual rooms, and they have like a cafeteria and a rec center, and they're all wearing bright yellow scrubs. And basically what happens is she's drugged a lot. At first, it's just drugs to kind of keep her calm, and she's woozy and like trouble concentrating, you know, like all of that kind of just overly drugged to keep somebody calm type thing. But she also has psychiatric sessions, I guess, counseling sessions, like one-on-one, where at the beginning of the counseling section, she takes a red pill, which kind of forces her to tell the truth, or at least like overshare a memory. And so the psychiatrist will work through like different memories that Sloane has that are like harmful memories, I guess, like emotionally harmful memories, like her boyfriend committing suicide, or like her relationship with James and stuff like that. And so she says those out loud, and then at the end of the session she takes a yellow pill, and the yellow pill erases the memory. And she doesn't realize this for a long time, but eventually she kind of like learns that all of these memories are being erased. And then that's that whole section. In this section she meets two guys. One of the guys is Realm, and he is another patient, and he is supposed to be like her best friend and care for her in this facility, but he knows what's happening to her, and he knows that she's in love with James and that she's losing these memories, and he kind of takes advantage of her losing these memories and tries to start a relationship with her, which is skeevy. Like, I know it's supposed to be a love triangle because that's what these teenage books do, but Jesus shit, this is skeevy. Just the sheer advantage that he is taking of her. And then the other guy is one of the orderlies, and his name is Roger, and he's just straight up rapey. He trades the girls pills that will help them hold on to a memory, supposedly, in exchange for sexual favors. So he apparently can only get off if a girl is willing, but he likes to make them uncomfortable in their willingness. So it's not really willing. It's like, if you let me touch your boobs, then I'll give you this pill and you can remember your boyfriend. And then the next time it'll be like, well, if you have sex with me, or if you suck my dick, or whatever. It doesn't get explicit in it. And because it's a teenage book. And then he also likes to like tie her down and threaten to touch her inappropriately or to rape her without actually doing it, which is, again, not as explicit as I just said it because it's for teenagers, and he never actually does anything, but holy fucking shit, is it skeevy. So yeah, that was very uncomfortable to read. If you're new to the channel, or maybe you haven't heard me say it before, I find exploitation of children is like one of the most uncomfortable things to possibly read. Like, I can't deal with child abuse or child exploitation. And I know these kids are like 16 or 17, but they're still children. Ugh. Anyway, eventually, Sloane gets out of the program, yada yada yada, you know how it goes, and she goes back to school, and her first friend that she meets, or the first friend that she makes because she doesn't remember anybody, is Lacey. Her old friend. Lacey doesn't really remember anything, but for some reason they're drawn together, and then Sloane starts to be drawn to this bad boy at the high school, and his name is James. And so basically it's like a repeat of all of their love story that they had from the first part of the book, or her memory. It was actually not even from the first part of the book. It's the repeat of the memories that she gave up while she was in the program, of how they fell in love. And it's like the destined to be together trope where all of the same things are replaying over and over again, even though James is a complete and total asshole, and I don't like him. But at the end of the book, basically the suicidal epidemic is expanding into adults now. It used to, after 18, no one really committed suicide, but now people in their like early 20s are starting to commit suicide. And Sloane's mom, who is a huge cunt, like absent parent or bad parent tropes are like just rampant in young adult, and this is also the case. Like, Sloane's mom is one of those parents who she's so afraid of another one of her children committing suicide that she won't let Sloane be anything but a zombie. So once Sloane starts talking to James again, her mom like flips the fuck out, even though James was never the cause of Sloane. Like, it has nothing to do with the epidemic, was always the person who kept Sloane grounded. He's not doing anything wrong. Neither one of them are suicidal, but her mom is so fucking insane about it that she tries to send Sloane back to the program. And at the very end of the book, like last page, Sloane and James escape, and they are fleeing with Lacey and Kevin, who is like Sloane's ex-handler, but really wants to help her instead of like trap her because there's something wrong with the program. It's skeevy. She also has a orange pill, I want to say is the color of it, and if you take that it'll bring all your memories back, which is not how any of this shit works. just saying, that's not how memories and drugs work. But I guess that's going to lead into the second book. Going into the second book is the second part of James and Sloane's story, and I think it's the end. Like I said, the series is like sets of duologies. So once we get done with the next book, we will be done with their story and we're going to different characters. I don't know if it's like a different time frame or something completely different. I will figure that out when we get to it. But right now I'm going to go into Sloane and James's second story and then see what happens when they're, fleeing from the government or the program and their parents and all of that fun stuff. So I will check in with you after that. Also, I forgot to record it because my battery died, but that took me 3.5 hours, a little over it, which is good because if I keep on this pace, then I will definitely be able to finish these books in the 24-hour time frame. Because provided I can do math correctly, if I've got 6 books, that gives me 4 hours each, right? If I can't do math, tell me in the comments. Math was never my strong suit. Next up, the treatment. We'll see where this goes. Jesus fucking Christ, that was so bad. This quickly turned from slightly interesting concept to raging hot dumpster fire. This series went hard in the way of the Maze Runner series, where the first book was, well, okay, Maze Runner, the first book was great, and the rest of the series was trash. This one, the first book was good, and at least the second book is trash. I'm still deciding if I'm going to call it here or not, but I guess we're going to talk about the treatment, which was the stupidest concept for a book I have ever had to just Ever. Okay. How do I do this? First, we still have Sloane and James, and they are on the run. And at the end of the last book, Realm's sister gave Sloane a pill that will apparently cure whatever happens in the program, which in and of itself that was fucking stupid, but then they made an entire book about this stupid pill. Apparently, a doctor who was part of the program had created the treatment that restores memories. And there is one pill in existence left. And for some reason, Sloane has it, but she doesn't want to take it because she doesn't want her memories back. And the first part of the book is them fleeing and joining the resistance, right? And they meet two new characters that are going to be important to how fucking stupid this story is, and that's Dallas and Cass. So this section is supposed to be about them being the resistance, but there's no resisting going on. They're going from like safe house to safe house, and the only thing that you're getting on page is that they all have the SANs again. And Sloane like randomly remembers memories, which is literally just regurgitating the shit from the first book. And then her and James have a lot of sex. And then Realm shows up, who's an asshat to begin with. And he's still trying to sleep with Sloane, even though Sloane is in love with James. Realm's in love with Sloane. Dallas, from the first moment on page that she's trying to fuck James. And like every conversation with her is her basically telling Sloane that she can steal her boyfriend from her at any time, which doesn't even make any freaking sense at all. And but Dallas is apparently really in love with Realm, who doesn't give a shit about her because he's randomly in love with Sloane after knowing her for like 6 weeks. It wasn't even 6 weeks, it was 4 weeks. He knew her for 4 weeks and they're in love, or he's in love with her, whatever. It's so stupid, it hurts. The next section is they realize what the fucking treatment is, and some doctor is trying to get the treatment from them, and they're like on the run to more, blah 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 blah. It's so fucking stupid. And in the last section they get captured by the program again, and they're gonna lobotomize Sloane now. There are two like major plot twist things or plot mover things that were really the stupidest shit I've ever read in my life. First, there's the creator of the program, and he is trying to get the treatment so he can cure everybody from the thing that he created, which doesn't make sense. But he tells the teenagers that he is under a gag order and that if he breaks his gag order and goes to the press telling them what happened with the program and how like problematic the program is, that he's agreed to be lobotomized if that happens. And it's just like, you can't. Teenagers are not stupid enough to buy that somebody's gonna get lobotomized because they broke a gag order for their job. Like, this is not real life. The other thing was like, they're trying to tie the characters together and the shit doesn't make any sense. So the program has been in existence for like, I think maybe a max 6 years at this point. I don't even think it's been around that long. It's a new thing. I'm thinking like 2-ish years, maybe. Though the suicide epidemic started 6 years ago. We know that. So sometime between 6 and now, but it's a relatively new thing. They're trying to get me to buy, and this is going to be convoluted because it doesn't make any sense. So, this Dr. Evelyn lady created the treatment, and she cured 4 people with the treatment, right? These people are Realm, Roger, the rapey guy from the first book, Kevin, who was like Sloane's handler for the first book, and then a 4th guy who died. But, and then somehow she cured these 4 guys at obviously different times, and she broke patient confidentiality, and all 4 of these guys knew that they had been cured, or knew about each other being cured, even though this is supposed to be like a big secret and shit like that. That doesn't make any sense. But apparently, Dallas was Realm's girlfriend before he went into treatment. And before she went into treatment as well. And he was an asshole back before he went through the program, and called the program on her to turn her in, even though she wasn't particularly suicidal. While she was in the program, there was a guard there, or an orderly, who was Roger, and Roger raped her. So that means Roger had to have been a suicidal teen, gone through the program, got cured by this Dr. Evelyn lady, and for some reason this woman who is a psychiatrist decides to know all of this guy's past memories, because that's part of like the treatment, is knowing like every single detail so they can forget it, knows that he's a rapey bastard, still decides to cure him, and then some point after that he turns 18 and then goes back and works for the program as an orderly, proceeds to rape this girl. She gets out of the program, then Realm goes in the program. He gets cured, goes through the thing, gets cured, gets a job back with the program afterwards, and then somehow knows about Roger being cured, which had to have been at least a few months prior, probably longer, because there's no sign that Dallas was the first girl Roger has done with this, and this all has to happen within like this very short amount of time, and it doesn't make any fucking sense. Oh, also at the end, the pill that's the cure that Realm randomly has and gives to Sloane is supposedly Roger's cure, but he's already been cured? How in the absolute fuck does any of this make any sense to anybody? I don't understand. I am like out of my mind with how poorly fucking written this book is. I can't handle it. Next is The Remedy, and basically the only reason I'm even considering attempting to read this book is because it covers completely new characters. This is whatever happened before the program happened, the attempt for the curing the epidemic before the program, which makes the story even more stupid because obviously they tried something before the program, which means that that 6-year timeline still doesn't fucking exist. I hate it so much right now. But I'm going to try this because it's supposed to be a different story with different characters. And if it is anywhere close to as horrible as the last book was, I quit. I'm giving up. I'm not putting myself through reading the last 4 books of the series if they're going to be the shit show that the treatment was. Like, oh my god, that was so bad. But yes, I'm gonna try this. Wish me luck. Please tell me that Suzanne Young has gotten her shit together for the 2nd book, or the 3rd book in this series. Right, about 10.5 hours in, and I have finished The Remedy, which should really just be called The Red Flags, because that's all this is. It's just every single red flag in existence. Yeah. It wasn't as bad as the treatment, but I'm not gonna say it was good either. Like, the treatment is a 1-star, this is like a 2-star, and it was like watching a train wreck. Just like everything you're seeing is death and gore and fire, and you can't look away. Because it's just like, this isn't really happening. Like, I'm not actually reading that this author thought this was a good idea. So I'm now going to share the red flags with you. This is a prequel duology, so this is like before the probably like at the start of the epidemic, and the like, it's not like there's teens committing suicide, but it doesn't seem like an epidemic yet. It's just teens committing suicide every once in a while, kind of like now. But there is a push for like mental health counseling, but red flag 1, it goes real wrong. Like, I don't understand why this would ever have been thought a good idea, but when children die, as part of counseling, a group of children known as, oh god, what are these called? Closers. A group of children known as closers are sent in to impersonate the dead child and live with the family for a couple of days until they can get closure. And these kids are like hardcore character actors. They become the dead child for a few days. Which is everything that I just told you was horrifying. Like, the thought of that is horrifying to me. I hope it's horrifying to you. But this follows Quinn, who is a closer, and she like finishes up an assignment and goes back home, and there's like all these rules about being a closer where like you could only have one assignment a month max. You have to go through like a lot of therapy afterwards to make sure that you're not like really becoming this, like the people you're portraying, the children you're portraying. And she is the daughter of the guy who's like the head of the program or created the program or whatever, or this program, like not the program, but like the closer program. And even though like they say there's all these rules and they like on page it's like these are the rules that have to follow and these are like all the mental health steps and stuff like that, they don't seem to actually be following any of their own rules. And she gets back from like a really tough assignment where a girl was killed in a car crash because her mother lost control of the car. And like literally 2 days later, she's sent out on another assignment that's 2 weeks long instead of the normal like 1 or 2 days. And this time, instead of dealing with the parents, she has to deal with a boyfriend too, which, red flags. Just, is the screen going red yet? One of the other safeguards is contracts. Like the kids who are these like character actors are supposed to do, or they have contracts, right? And the max that they're supposed to do is 2 contracts, which is 8 years. And she's on contract number 4 right now, which, another red flag. I mean, this is supposed to be about mental health. How can this be about actually caring about mental health when the person who is designated to help with this mental health, her mental health is not being taken into consideration, like literally at all, like not an ounce. And supposedly by her own father, which is makes it like even worse. So this girl, Quinn, goes onto this new assignment and she like literally instantly falls in love with this boyfriend, like this girl's boyfriend, and like allows this guy to pretend that she is his dead girlfriend. Which is kind of like the point, but what she's supposed to do is like pretend to be the dead girlfriend but not take it to like girlfriend places and just be like, I forgive you, blah blah blah. Oh, she's also not told like how this girl died, and there's like huge chunks of like her life missing, which is not normal and more red flags. But she like falls in love with this guy and she's like making out with him, almost having sex with him, doing stuff that she really shouldn't be doing. And like he's calling her by this dead girl's name. Her name's Catalina. And he's like calling her Catalina, pretending like she's Catalina, and pretending like he didn't lose his girlfriend. And like while having sexual relationship with this girl who replaced his girlfriend. And she's like, I think I'm in love with him. And it's just like, wait, no. This is so bad. Stop. At one point she like forgets, she gets punched in the face by like one of this dead girl's, Catalina's, like old friends, who's like obviously freaked out that this girl is pretending to be her dead best friend. And it makes her like snap, and she completely forgets who she is, and all of the old previous like iterations that she's played like get all mixed up, and she doesn't know who she is. And then her therapist shows up and she's like, the therapist is like, are you okay? And she's like, yeah, I need to finish this. And the therapist is like, okay, it's not like you didn't just forget who the fuck you were. Go ahead and finish this job. It's fine. Then Quinn has a boyfriend, like a normal boyfriend. So we've got like the love triangle, even if it's like the most fucked up love triangle in existence. His name is Deacon, and he is a former closer. He used to be a closer, but he finished his contract and didn't have to re-sign way too many times. But he's like emotionally abusive, where he dates her, or like not even dates, but he'll have like an emotional moment with her where he's like, I love you. They'll either like make out or have sex or whatever, and then he breaks up with her, saying like, I don't have any emotions, I can't be with you, this isn't what I want. And then so she like gets really sad. And then he's like, I need to be around you, we could just be friends. And then so she's like, okay, we'll just be friends. And then he does the, I love you, you're my everything, sleeps with her, breaks up with her again, and this like repeats multiple times throughout the book. And it's just like, oh, hello, red flags. I missed you over there with all the other red flags. You're just blending in. As far as like how this ties back to the regular book, the person like above Quinn's dad in this like book is Dr. Pritchard, who was the creator of the program that we see later on. And his daughter Virginia seems to be patient zero in the teenage suicide epidemic, because Quinn and her partner Aaron, because they work in pairs where the guy is impersonating dead boys and the girl's impersonating dead girls, and they partner up and kind of keep each other grounded and check in on each other while they're on assignments. Every person that they are doing the grief counseling or impersonating for the grief counseling is connected back to Virginia Pritchard. And they're kind of like finding this out at the end of the book, that she is somehow connected to all of these seemingly happy teenagers who become more and more depressed, start drawing black spirals, which was a theme in the program. Is like, that was like one of the major signs of depression, is like the drawing of black spirals a lot. And then they go off to commit suicide. But Virginia is connected to all of these kids who are finding these trends of suicidal ideations. Also, at the very, very end of the book, which I assume leads into what happens in the next book, which is the epidemic, Quinn and Deacon are running away, basically, and we find out that from Dr. Pritchard's perspective and Deacon's perspective, that Quinn is the first person to go through the treatment, or to go through the program. Like, she's like the test subject, I guess, for the memory wipe thing that happens with the program. And she obviously doesn't know that. And then Deacon's her handler. So there's like this ulterior motive thing where he's not really, like, is he really in love with her in his emotionally manipulative, abusive assholeness? Or is he just doing his job being her handler? Which, hey, oh, those red flags are back. Who would have thought? So we'll see if this book, as far as like plot-wise goes, tanks. But I'm going to start reading the epidemic. Oh, fuck. Well, the good news is this update's gonna be short. Yeah, this is basically the origin story to the program. Or it's supposed to be. It was really just a bunch of really stupid teen drama. and like some really stupid, shitty explanations for things. Like, the suicide epidemic, like, what that actual illness is, does not make any fucking sense scientifically. It's like a behavioral contagion is what they call it. And apparently, even though it acts like an actual, like, contagious disease, like the common cold, where one person becomes suicidal and then spreads their suicidal ideology, or spreads like the disease of suicide to somebody else. That's how it behaves, or that's how it's like written. But they just explain it that because one teen's suicidal, other teens start copycatting. That doesn't make any sense. That's not how things work. So yeah, it's stupid. It's mostly just a bunch of stupid teen drama that doesn't make any sense. There's like the origin story of some of the characters we meet in the program novel, like side characters, not any of the main characters. Roger's in this book. He's as creepy and shitty as ever. And then like a bunch of other people that were like literal like insignificant side characters were introduced in this book. But yeah, it was bad. Like mediocre bad. Not like horrible bad. It was just like basic bitch bad. Which means I'm starting the last duology. And this one sounds worse than everything else I've read so far. Okay, The Adjustment. Stupid teen drama, but like the first book level of stupid teen drama, where it was actually kinda interesting a little bit. The plot's kind of convoluted. I am going to tell it to you right now. So this is after the program has been dismantled, right? It's gone. All of the brainwashed, memory removed children have been returned to like public schools in a public setting, but there's like no real support for them anymore. Like the government was just like shut down the program, and then they're not helping the recovery of any of these affected children, which shocking to no one if you know anything about the American government. Anyway, so this girl Tatum has never gone to the program, but her boyfriend, whose name is Wes, and he did go to the program. And after he got out of the program, he went to go live with his uncle for a little while, so he didn't like return back to school with the rest of the kids. But at the beginning of this book, he like shows back up, and basically she starts hanging out with him and they fall back in love, because it's a teenage romance story. So that's the shit that happens in teenage romance stories. Sorry if the angle's a little bit different. The battery died and I had to change it. But anyway, Wes has like emotions attached to like seeing her, and he has muscle memories of like showing up at her house, showing up at their like favorite spots, things like that. And she tries to like bring back his memories, and he can tell that he's in love with her, but he doesn't actually remember anything. And then they hear about this thing called The Adjustment, the titular thing for this. And it's the doctors from this series, the people who were not part of the program, but the thing before the program, which I already forgot the name of because this is all stupid. And they have created The Adjustment, which is where they take memories from other people of like, let's say like it's your brother, and you and your brother, or your brother has a memory of like you guys playing in a swimming pool when you're young, and they'll take that mapped memory from him and then put it into your brain, and then your memory will be triggered by your experience of that thing, supposedly. Like, the science in this shit is bad. But that was the idea behind it. And so they start doing this adjustment thing, and he's getting some memories, and then he gets a memory from her that's like corrupted, right? Where she remembers something differently than how it actually happened. And it makes him like have an aneurysm or a seizure or something like that, and he's in the hospital and he's dying, right? And the doctor says the only way to keep him from dying, because his emotions don't match the memories, because the science is stupid, the only way to save him from dying is to completely wipe his memory, right? And so that's what they do. They wipe his memory, and he's not supposed to remember anything about her again. And she's like, in the process of like all of this, she realizes that he had broken up with her, and she was so depressed that she like blacked out the memories of it. And that's why that memory was corrupted. So they wipe all his memories, and then the huge plot twist comes in, and she was in the program. Dun dun dun. But only for a week. Her father got her out. Her grandfather got her out of the program after only a week, and she was the only successful patient of the adjustment. And so she has this like memory where Wes had left her for a week and she didn't know where he went, but that wasn't what happened. It was, she was in the program, and then when they readjusted her memories, they just put in the fact that he had disappeared for a week, even though that's not at all what happened. So, that was like the big thing. And then for some reason, the two of them coming together, like they ended up wiping his memories again and told her to basically stay away from him, that she would hurt him. But it was really just the fact that her, or their memories, like they keep bringing back each other's memories and they could kill each other is basically what it is, because they're trying not to let her know that she was ever in the program, or that she's the only successful patient of the adjustment. Which that took me, what, like 5 minutes to say? Not worth it. It was, most of this is teenagers fucking each other, and them like saying they love each other and they're soulmates for absolutely no reason. Parents and doctors being complete idiots in the most unrealistic ways, and letting teenagers just run rampant like they're adults and not hormonal children. You know, basic YA contemporary shit. But yeah, mediocre. And that brings us to our final form, which is the complication, where I assume that Tamsin and Wes are going to get back together and live happily ever after about 400 pages of stupid teen drama. Sound about right? Sounds about right. Okay, the complication. This one qualifies under like the stupid but mediocre books in the series, where it's not hugely problematic and trash like book 2, but it's not like interesting like books 1 and 5? 1 and 5, right? This is kind of like the wrap-up book. Basically, this follows Tatum and Wes still, and the endless line of teenagers who are apparently in love for the rest of their lives. Which I get that there are people who meet in high school, fall in love, and are happily married for the rest of their lives, but that's not a normal occurrence. And this is like a series of 4, I mean, it's mainly 3, but there ends up being 4 groups of teenagers who meet in high school and they're soulmates, which is absurd in and of itself, but beside the point. This follows Tatum and Wes is like the main couple, but there's also appearances of Quinlan and I don't remember his name, but it begins with a D. Deacon. And what was the girl from the first book? Guy's name is James. Sloane and James. These are not sticking well with me. But it has an appearance from Quinlan, Deacon, Sloane, James, some of the parental doctors from Quinlan's book, and then Realm. The teens that were in the program, they've got like, or they'll have like traumatic experiences that trigger memories that they're supposed to be erased, and that trigger of memory causes them to either like have an aneurysm and potentially die, or like they can't deal with reliving the memory, and then they commit suicide, because that's what the whole thing's about, is suicide. The adjustment was supposed to be the cure, but that doesn't actually end up working because people lie to themselves in their memories, and that creates even like worse of a problem. But they find out that Tatum really is the cure because she has been part of like all of the programs. So it turns out that Tatum was an original closer, and she was one of like the very, very, very young closers, like 5 or 6, and then she ended up staying with the family, and then Dr. Pritchard like removed that memory of her life before staying with this family. So she was a closer, and then she ended up going to the program and had her memory erased through the program, and then she went through the adjustment and had her memory like partially returned, and somehow through going through all of those processes made her the cure. I know I've said this like 80 trillion times. The science does not make any fucking sense in this book. But that's basically what this is about, is teenage drama and them on the run from the program that's supposed to be defunct, but apparently there's still people who are experimenting on children and erasing their memories. It's... the premise of this is really stupid. But, you know, everything works out well in the end. Everybody falls in love. But there's something funny that happens. So, you remember that part about this is supposed to be an epidemic about suicide, and the program is supposed to like erase the memories so children aren't committing suicide because of this weird epidemic that doesn't make any sense. That's not what she's the cure for. She's just the cure from like people breaking down after the program. They did not at all address, Suzanne Young did not at all address the fact that this started because teens are committing suicide in epidemic proportions. They apparently decided that it doesn't matter if teens are committing suicide. I don't know what's happening. Like, the complication in the cure is literally just the complications caused by Dr. Pritchard and his program. But they didn't care about the suicide epidemic anymore. So, yeah. If you didn't figure this out already, going through this whole video, this series is trash. Do not subjugate yourself to reading this series. It's so bad. There's plot holes everywhere. A random plot hole in this book is she was 18 in like the first half of the book, in the book before this, and then like halfway through the book she is now just turned 18, and it's just like, but you were already 18. Like, we already discussed that you were already 18, so you didn't have to get your grandparents' permission to do a bunch of shit, and now suddenly you're not 18 anymore. But you really are. But what? But yeah. The whole book, or whole series, is trash. I do not recommend. I finished everything with 3 hours left to go, so 21 out of the 24 hours used. I was planning to use the last 3 hours to read Girls with Razor Hearts, which is the second book in a different series by Suzanne Young, but I don't think I can deal with this woman's writing anymore. I was really excited to read this before I read the program series, because I read the first book in this series last year and really enjoyed it, but now I'm like entirely terrified to read this, and this just went like way back burner on my TBR, which sucks because I bought it this month. And I didn't want to buy books that I wasn't going to read right when I bought them. So instead, I think I am going to take the safe route and read A Record of a Spaceborne Few by Becky Chambers, because I know I love Becky Chambers' writing, and I've been kind of saving her books as things to read when I hate everything that I just read. So, yeah. That's how bad that was, is I'm dipping into my Becky Chambers backlist as help for getting over the bad books that I just read. That is it for this video. Next weekend I am doing a Throne of Glass read-through. More people like this series than the 2 YA series that I've read this month, so hopefully this is just way better. I guess we'll find out, won't we? But that is everything for this video. I will catch you next week for Throne of Glass, and I will catch you in a couple of days for the next video. Bye!